All right, we're here. Hey, Case. Hey, Bav.
Hey, Louis.
Hey, Louis. Hey, Bav. Hey, everyone. How you doing?
Yeah, really well. Finally, tech works. This is like one of the first calls where everything just actually works. So, good start to the season with 10.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'll quickly introduce myself. I don't know if most of the 10 people community know me. Obviously, we've got a ton of an amalgamation of communities here: Nozomi, Legion, 10, and I think Cookie is coming on pretty soon as well. My name is Louis, one of the co-founders of Nozomi. Obviously, we've got Case over here. I'll give you the floor for a few seconds to introduce yourself, and then Bav, and then I guess we can, kind of get into it.
Awesome. Hopefully most people know me. I'm Case. I'm one of the co-founders at 10. I mainly focus on product, and I spent most of my career working in banking. Got into blockchain back in 2012, and haven't looked back. Super excited for this. Over to you, Bav.
Cheers, Case. My name is Bav. Few of you, I would say, some of you definitely know me as 10 Chad, but otherwise I go as Bav. Today I lead out BD at 10. Historically, I was more in the TradFi game, working in equity sales. Louis, thanks for having me.
Cool, awesome. I mean, obviously, we'll set a bit of context across Nozomi. What we do is we're building out the Web3 home for most founders and entrepreneurship in the space. So we work a ton across, obviously, a lot of the leading ecosystems like Aptos, EF, you kind of name it, most of the ecosystems out there, as well as most of the VCs. And we've recently done a massive partnership with the actual Legion platform, where we're actually the first community network to actually run Legion sales. And 10 Protocol came across our desk. We've known them for a while, seen them on and off Twitter, and they're officially, you're going to be our first sale across the Legion platform. So we're super stoked that it's all happening now. Very, very important week. And I guess we want to really get into the weeds of why Nozomi, why 10, why we ended up partnering together, and why we're super bullish on you guys. So I guess I'll play the role of the mod today, and I'll pretty much pepper you, Case, with a ton of questions, because I know why we're super bullish. But our community are absolutely itching to find out exactly how, when we met, I was just all in as soon as I heard what you guys are doing, the traction, what you actually unlocking for Ethereum and Web3 overall in the space. So without further ado, I guess, Case, give us a rundown. What are you actually building?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so before I tell you what we're building, I'll tell you what we built previously. It's all connected. So prior to building 10, myself and most of the 10 team built another blockchain platform. It's a blockchain called R3 Corda. And R3 Corda is by far the most successful, most widely adopted enterprise blockchain out there, in the sense that it's genuinely being used by the world's largest banks. It has over 10 billion in RWA locked. Every bank in Italy uses it to settle payments. Most of the world's largest trade finance networks live on Corda. So it's huge. And one of the things we learnt when building Corda was that, hey, privacy or confidentiality is an absolute cornerstone if you're going to do things in the real world. So we spun out of R3 and set about building 10. And, ultimately we kind of looked at Web3, and, it doesn't really matter what vertical you look at, whether it's sort of like gaming, institutional, healthcare, identity, AI, DeFi, whatever it is. They're all fundamentally bottlenecked by a lack of encrypted programmable execution. And ultimately, it just means like so much of it is a no-go. Like, you look at developers and they're constantly scratching their heads as, what should we build next? Or how can we improve on this? And it's just so difficult because we've not really sort of carried forward the baton from Web 2 because we're missing the superpowers that it had, which was this ability to, have encrypted data, to have privacy, to have, despite it being centralized, it was still private, right? You could go into Facebook, Amazon, nobody had to see everything you were doing. And that just doesn't exist today. And, most privacy solutions, quote unquote, today are retrofits. Whereas we sort of took things from the fundamentals, right? 10 is the first encrypted Ethereum L2 built from scratch for real private confidential computation. And, we think like, AI, gaming, privacy, all these sort of emergent fields, 10 is positioned as the day zero infrastructure for it.
Absolutely, I love that. And I think that's definitely one of the things that definitely set you versus a lot of the other teams, because we see a ton of privacy kind of chains that come across our desk from an investment point of view, from an advisory point of view, and all of that. We see a ton of deal flow, but I think that's that one thing, right? It's one of the quotes I love is learn the rules so you learn how to break them. And having that experience of TradFi, you actually come from that. Obviously, R3, you're coming from that knowledge. You know exactly what's broken, what the corruption was, and actually rebuilding everything from the ground up from a sense of actual knowledge and wisdom. So I think that's absolutely love the background you and the team actually bring forth in the community. So great foundation. So tell us, what's 10 in a nutshell then?
Yeah, sure. So I guess at a very high level or in a nutshell, it's a layer 2 on Ethereum. It's, the mental model you should have. It's similar to Arbitrum and Optimism, except it's encrypted by default. It gives developers the power to effectively say, hey, I want this to be public or I want this to be private, without leaving Solidity, without leaving the EVM. And, I think essentially what we're seeing is pretty much everyone else out there is racing for throughput or lower gas fees. And we do that too. But it's this one superpower that really changes the game. In fact, so if I sort of zoom in a bit or sort of take it back to fundamentals, if we sort of think about how people interacted with computers back in the day, it was solo, right? You'd have your desktop and you'd have Minesweeper or Solitaire or Word or whatever it was, and it would be you and your computer, and that would be how you interact with it. That would be how you produce stuff. And then this revolution appeared, driven by the internet, and then we had shared data, right? The idea that, hey, it doesn't just have to be our computer. We can kind of offload stuff to servers. We can all cooperate. We can share data. And that, like I said earlier, that led to sort of Facebook and Amazon and eBay and everything great we see today in the Web 2 space. But it did come with central control, right? And what we wanted to do with Web3 was we wanted to say, look, can we have this same open shared compute, but in a place where we still control our own data, where we own the infrastructure, we own the network, we don't have to sort of pay rent to centralized servers everywhere that control everything and sell our data. And that was kind of lost in the transition to Web3, because at the same time, we made everything transparent, right? So you lost this ability to have what we're calling this missing piece of programmable encryption or smart transparency. And that's what we've brought back. We've brought back the ability to still to be able to build things like an Amazon or a Facebook or whatever it might be, but in a completely decentralized way. So anyone on the 10 network can run a node, right? But anyone running that node can't see what's happening. They can't see the compute. They can't see the data. It's still private, as if it sort of existed in the Web 2 world where, not everyone sees everything, although, the centralized authorities do. So in a way, what we've built truly is kind of like this evolution where we've taken all the superpowers of Web 2 and brought them along into Web 3. And now it puts us in a position where we can truly start saying, hey, anything and everything in Web 2, we can now build with a Web 3 backbone. And that's it. That's what 10 gives you.
Yeah, that's actually something we actually wrote in our thesis as well, why we backed you guys. Web 2 obviously took your data and kept it. We all know the issues with that. That's why a lot of us are building what we're building in Web 3. But ultimately as well, Web3 gave all of that data back to the user, but then put it all on chain and exposed it. So Web3, absolutely, it comes with the security guarantees and everything like that, but ultimately it blocks out institutions from actually coming on chain and actually trading, because they're not going to put in billions, trillions of dollars if they're going to get attacked by MEV bots, right? And we all talk about like hyper personalized AI, right? And ultimately, we've seen humans pretty much always kind of choose convenience over security a lot of the time, right? So whenever we say, hey, there's going to be hyper personalized AI, you know how we do get hyper personalized AI. We need to upload as much data as humanly possible. Do you really trust ChatGPT with that, or OpenAI with that? Funny enough, they're called OpenAI. Obviously, it's closed AI pretty much. But then at the same time, we know decentralized AI is the solution to that. But that's a massive risk, right? Now you're pretty much overexposing yourself. As soon as you give up your wallet, you know how much you're getting paid, what your salary is, who you've worked for, and that's fine for certain individuals. But imagine the whole blockchain understanding that, right? Once they find out what your wallet is, so that's massive exposure. So, you're right? It's a natural evolution. I think Vitalik called it out, I think only a few months ago in his article, Why I Support Privacy. And it's like one of the core fundamental things. It might not be the most sexiest thing, but funnily enough, from an end user point of view, it's probably the most sexiest thing out there when you actually dig deeper into it, because without it, you can't do DAOs that actually vote. You can't have public health systems on chain, which we all talk about. You can't actually do it. You can't do decentralized AI. You can't actually have institutions coming in besides them buying ETFs for Ethereum, right? They're not actually going to come on chain. So that's something we dug super deeply in. It's one of our core theses over the last few years of what we're investing in as well. So yeah, super stoked about that. I know there's a ton of other solutions out there, like, ZK Sync, and a ton of, like, on Ethereum as well. There's a few other L2s doing different solutions across privacy, and then you've got your own privacy kind of chains as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about what the team at 10 are doing completely differently? Because we know in not even just Web3 or businesses, it's not just good enough to be slightly faster or slightly better. What you guys have, I think, is a very, very novel approach compared to everyone else or most other people. So yeah, we'd love to talk about the actual core differences compared to most other privacy chains or other privacy solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at its heart, it's an L2. So it gets to inherit Ethereum's security model and mass decentralization. We also continue using the EVM. So we leverage the entire EVM. It's not about sort of being EVM compatible or EVM equivalent. It is literally the EVM. So what that means is, most Web3 developers are Solidity developers. So immediately you gain access to all these developers, and they can take their dApps and just port them straight over to 10. There's, in most cases, you probably don't even have to change any of your code. So that in itself sort of removes, all this friction. Secondly, it's about the technology choice we made. So, in the privacy space, everyone's sort of probably heard of like ZK, FHE, MPC, and TEs. And of those technologies, they're all sort of like great at doing different things. Like, for example, ZK is amazing at sort of, proving to the world that some piece of information, and you want to prove this or have this piece of information or some sort of fact is true about you without revealing that to the rest of the world. And it's, it's great for that. Then you sort of have multi-party compute and FHE. FHE is another great one, fully homomorphic encryption. But the problem is that these technologies are not ready for prime time, in the sense that, you have to give up a lot if you're going to use any of these techs. Like if you're going to use FHE, you're going to have to give up a lot of the functionality that you can do today with smart contracts. You're going to have to give up a huge amount of speed. And even then, they're not really ready. Whereas TEs, or trusted execution environments, that's the technology that powers all our phones today, all our security devices. It's what enabled institutions to move their data into the cloud. It's what institutions use all over the place. In fact, NVIDIA are currently investing heavily in secure enclaves or secure hardware, so they can do private compute over AI data. But it's about sort of making a pragmatic choice of saying, hey, what's the best tech available today that moves us forward, right? I think there's this I think there's too many hung up in Web3 on sort of what does the perfect solution look like, even if that's sort of 5-10 years away. That's not how the rest of the world works, right? That's not how we move forward. It's hyper competitive. We're trying to overcome the power of Web2. We're trying to say goodbye to that world and build a whole new world. We have to be pragmatic, right? We have to take solutions that today operate, that institutions believe in and use, right? We have to use tech that scales massively. For example, we found in testing that in using a TEE, it's only an 8% hit on performance, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things, right? And it's available to us today, so we can use this and we can start making huge progress. We can start massively opening up the design space. And that's kind of the key difference. We're taking pragmatic tech that we know institutions already use today. We know that the tech has been mass tested by everyone because it's in all our phones, right? And we're employing that in Web3. We're employing that in 10.
Absolutely. I like to say that I believe the next 10 years potentially might dictate humanity's next 1,000. So if you believe in the AGI and all of that kind of stuff, we've got a very small window of time where a lot of this accelerated technology is just going to overwhelm and overcome a lot of what humanity is kind of doing for the good or better, right? And it's important that we get the foundations right now, which is why decentralized tech is super important, because you have those privacy guarantees, you got the security guarantees. So to your point, it's extremely important that what we're building now has to be scalable. This can't be something that, okay, in 20 years' time, we'll have the decentralized tech ready for the mass market. It has to be, it's happening right now. So we have to work in conjunction with it so it all converges at the right time. So love that thinking there. So I would love to I know you touched on a few of the potential use cases. Obviously, we're super bullish from Nozomi from a decentralized AI point of view and a few other verticals like healthcare and stuff. But what are the top use cases and verticals that you're looking at over the next 12 months? And then we'll kind of jump into what the roadmap looks like. I know a ton of the people on the call want to hear about the juicy details about potential roadmaps. But what kind of verticals are you looking at over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, sure thing.
Yeah, Louis, I think this is a good actual opportunity to mention the incubation program. So the sort of backstory there was we had tons of applications that we deemed, to be the best use cases that to sort of showcase 10 via the dApps as opposed to just sort of talk the talk. And for us, I believe the industries or rather the verticals that will fundamentally transform with this sort of entry of encryption are RWAs, DeFi, AI, gaming, and etc. So it might be helpful for the listeners if I gave more sort of insight into this. So if we're talking RWAs, we are incubating a program called Habana. And the problem they're solving is within the global commodity services market, a market that's, I think the last time I checked, valued at over 5 trillion. Today, each trade involves 20 plus entities, 10 to 20 documents. It's a 45-day settlement cycle, and every year 9.6 billion is lost in fraud. So what they're doing on 10, they're building 3 main products. Trade Blotter, which is a real-time on-chain consensus. ETR Vault, which is secure enclaves for storing electronic transferable records. And ETR Seal, which is a cryptographic hashing to eliminate fraud and double counting. Now, why is this significant at all? Because now the settlement cycles go from 45 days to 1 hour. The admin costs drop by 20%. Profitability raise 15%. And fundamentally, they're taking the first steps to bring a market that's worth 5 trillion on chain, starting with 10. Now, if we talk about governance, everyone, most people who are really bullish on 10 talk about institutions, and one can argue governments are, a clear example of an institution. Today, governance is broken. It's fragmented, it's outdated. Citizens feel disconnected. and they find it difficult to actually vocalize their struggles. So Maya is building a government operating system on 10. It's soon to be used by the governments of Libya, Jordan, and Barbados. And what it's doing is it's using TEs to sort of build this citizen engagement layer where you can have private voting, but it's still verifiable. Now, Lou, you mentioned AI is absolutely huge. One of the key problems with on-chain AI agents today is the strategies, or one can argue the alpha is public, it's visible, it can be copied, it can be exploited, and this isn't ideal at all, whether it's trading or healthcare. So with ZK AGI, they're building what they call secret AI agents that will run entirely encrypted on 10. You're going to have the ability for one of their agents called Delta Core to have sort of dark pool trading. They're building a healthcare agent called Zcare. And the idea really here is with encryption as the new meta, these AI agents retain their competitive edge. It enables profitable autonomous trading whilst keeping all your sensitive information visible to you and yourself only. Now, the last market where we're incredibly bullish on is gaming. Gaming, as we see it, is broken. The user experience is horrific. It's hard to go viral because it requires a bunch of extensions, etc. So we're working with a project called Winx and Killer Dapps. They've now found a way to build fully on-chain games on Twitter. So literally as a tweet, you can still have your tweet functionalities, etc. And they're building the likes of Roulette, Plinko, etc. On 10, all of these games sort of rely on the ability to encrypt gameplay. So it's absolutely crucial that these games remain encrypted. That's why they're coming to 10. And the very last one, if you excuse me, I know I said last one last time, but I promise this is actually the last one, is Chimp X AI. DeFi, especially if you see it today, there's a lot of problems. There's bad MEV. There's, like I said, dark pools. There's, if you're talking lending, borrowing, there's the ability to sort of force liquidation by seeing public liquidation prices. So what Chimpex AI are doing is they're basically giving users a means of trading on any blockchain, really, any EVM blockchain, but sort of sharing or absorbing the qualities of encryption. So now you could have no MEV by just encrypting the mempool. In theory, down the line, you're going to have dark pools of V2. So the Chimp Exchange, or Chimpex AI rather, are really building DeFi for the masses by including encryption as we know it today in a way in which there's gas-free execution, which obviously helps the UX. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a sentiment to once again why we back you guys, because it might not be the sexiest thing when we say it's like privacy preserving L2 on Ethereum, right? And at the start, Ethereum wasn't the most sexiest thing. But when you actually look at the use cases, how it's actually rebuilding everything from the ground up, the world is your oyster. Every single use case on Web 2 should be on Ethereum, should be in Web 3. And with 10, you can finally actually do it. So from the first sentence, okay, privacy preserving L2, well, that might not sound the sexiest unless you're, a hyper-focused dev. But from the user core, it unlocks, hyper-personalized AI, governance, institutions, public health records, everything you just essentially said there, Bav. So that's what we're super excited about. And it's not, and like I said, with the team's background, it's not something you've just made up out of thin air. You've already hold those relationships where you can bring in those institutions as Web 2 folks to finally actually come on. So super excited about that. I know that's actually still is like pretty much live and people are actually building on it instead of us just promising random stuff and it's in 6 to 12 months. So I know there's going to be a ton more announcements over the next few weeks, few months around that. So very much on the edges to see what's happening there. So in terms of roadmap over the next 6 to 12 months, is there any juicy details before we start talking with Antoni from Cookie around the ACM program as well? Any major milestones that you guys are targeting at the moment? And I think Case just dropped off. Hopefully it will come back on. Or you know what? We can go back to that question and we can intro Antoni.
I think Cass is back.
Oh, Cass is back. Yeah, we were about to move on, Cass. But yeah, before we introduce Cookie 3 and the ACM program with Legion. Wanted to just get your final thoughts on essentially just beyond the incubation as well. Is there any major milestones you're looking at over the next 6 to 12 months? I know we can't go into super hyper details. I know everyone's talking about the word starting with T and the letter ending with E. But is there anything you can share over the next 6 to 12 months that you're pretty much targeting as a team?
Yeah, sure. So we've had testnet live since November 2024. And we've been scaling up, fixing bugs, adding features, and we're now ready. So mainnet is now ready to go, or testnet is now mainnet ready. It's just a case of having a sufficient period of time with no bugs crop up, and then we're good to launch. And that's, it's the culmination of like 3 years plus of work. So that's enormous. One thing we built was a game called House of 10, which was an encrypted on-chain poker game with AI players. And we deployed that, and that sort of, that was really well received. Lots of excitement around it. And, naturally conversation sort of built from there as, what else could AI do? So one thing we'll be doing is launching an AI agent marketplace, because first question that came up with House of 10 was, hey, can I train up my own AI agent to play this game? So that's going to be cool. We're obviously using TEs. We're going to be building some added defense in depth there. So leveraging other TE providers, so we can start to truly decentralize at the hardware level. And like Bav was saying, the launch partners and the incubated dApps is absolutely huge. There's some really, really exciting ones in there. And yeah, I think aside from that, we get to a point where we've had mainnet out for a while and it's been battle hardened, and that's where we go, almost back to basics for us. But it's where we go back to the institutions. It's where we go back to R3. It's where we say, hey, look, we're ready now. Mainnet's months. We've settled X many billions. Now, and then it's sort of, really about building an institutional version of the 10 stack, which we can license to institutions. And that's really sort of the holy grail. And yeah, that's what we've got to look forward to over the next year.
Yeah, always love to hear when everything's pretty much ready for mainnet to go live. And then obviously spend a little bit of time in mainnet, battle harden it. And then, yeah, it's onwards and upwards for mass adoption, I guess. Cool. So let's talk about, I think one question is, before we even get to Cookie, obviously the raise, the public launch, the partnership with Nozomi, what made you kind of reach out and essentially say, hey, you know what, we want to make sure community is part of this journey as well. Not just, wait until, like most other projects, just wait until TGE, and then essentially, unfortunately for most retail users, they end up being exit liquidity. Yeah, why is community super important for the 10 protocol, for you, and yeah, why Legion, I guess?
It was a question to me. Sorry, I got confused a bit.
Oh, sorry. I think I'll start off with Case, but then we'll talk about.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So yeah, Case. Yeah. Why is community super important for 10 protocol, and why did you want to bring them along the journey before any of the next major steps, which we won't name, but we know the next major step in the next few months. But yeah, why is community important right now, and bring them in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sort of community is important for any project in Web3, because what we're doing is just so big, right? Disrupting Web2 is no easy task. You're taking on the behemoths of the world. It has to be a community effort. Community is the foundation of ecosystem security, usage, governance. It's pretty much everything. It's how you sort of align everyone, whether it's active builders, engaged users. That essentially is the new moat, right? And I think people sort of think about perhaps like yapping and a cookie as marketing, but it's not. It's actually infrastructure, because community is integral to everything, right? So yeah, that's my answer. It's just at the heart of everything. It's super, super important. It's the only way we get to where we need to go. And ultimately, sorry, one other point. It's we can sort of sit back all day long, right, and sort of talk about, look, this is how our tech is going to be used, and this is what we're going to disrupt. But ultimately, the best use cases will be discovered and refined by users and builders, and not dictated by us. And yeah, I think ultimately community will be the proof of validity for what we're building.
Absolutely. So we couldn't be happier. Obviously, 10 Nozomi are pretty much leading the sale to do on Legion. So community actually get access this time rather than being exit liquidity. And part of that is obviously working with Cookie as well. Cookie's officially partnered with Legion as well in terms of building out this ACM campaign. So Antonio, do you want to speak a little bit about ACM? And I guess we can kind of get into the actual details of what people need to be doing, what the whole program is supposed to be about, and how it's actually going to be run over the next week or so.
Sure, thanks, Luis. So we teamed up with Legion, which we think is, like, for me, is one of the most bullish teams currently in crypto, especially in the context of the TGEs. And what we want to change with this partnership and introducing ACM is the lack of capital in the social layer. So obviously there are a lot of products that incentivize the social engagement, the generating impressions and content, but we do not actually check if people back their words with their holdings, with their liquidity provisions, with their stablecoin deposits, and so on and so forth. So together with Legion, we created something together for Almanac, which was the first ACM project, and people can deposit the money into their vaults. Also, Legion investors are rewarded as well. So generally speaking, we want content creators to put the money where the mouth is. And when we saw that Nozomi is also, joining the Legionnaires, and 10 is being launched, like it's made sense from the get-go. So from, I don't know if that's released today already, but I think tomorrow is like the last deadline. So top 150 snappers, so content creators that joined 10 on cookie.fun, will see a pop-up, and the pop-up will say, do you want to invest in 10 or not? There will be two buttons, yes or no. If you click no, or you miss the deadline to click one, then the next person gets the pop-up. So let's say that the first person doesn't want to invest, then the 151st snapper gets the pop-up. So we want to highlight 150 people that do not only talk about 10 on crypto Twitter, but also want to get financial exposure by investing in the public sale. So, to talk about the numbers, 150 snappers get a guaranteed allocation of up to 5K. And maybe, Luis, you can remind us what are the exact terms of investments.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to actually say the actual terms of the investments. I guess people will have to sign up on Legion. It will be on the actual sales page there. So unfortunately, I won't be able to dive into the exact ones. But yeah, literally just sign up on Legion, go to the page, and all the details will be there to learn more. But yeah, I guess to your point, Antonio, I think, Legion, one of the best, probably one of the most bullish teams we've come across, which is why we wanted to bring all of our deal flow, network, investor relations, everything into the platform. So every single team, especially 10 Protocol, have everything they need to not just raise from the community, but actually launch. And I think that's obviously one thing kind of broken with InfoFi. And from a Nozomi point of view, we're always trying to bring in new users to the protocols we actually work with. So we break it down into like 4 sections. It's like you've got 4 types of ICPs. You've got engagers, people that essentially just go on social posts. Then you've got contributors, people that are actually building within the ecosystem, depositing TVL and stuff like that. Then you got ambassadors, people who are shouting from the rooftops to join 10. And then you got investors. And the unicorn user is a type of person that actually invests in the protocol, contributes, that yaps about it. And that's why we were super bullish on this partnership with Cookie 3 and 10 protocol, and now doing a Legion sale as well. It's for 10. Obviously, they've got an extremely strong community, but it's about identifying those few people that actually exhibit all of those traits of an investor, of a contributor, of an engager, of a yapper, because phase 1 is just TGE, right? It's how do you build this into a unicorn that lasts multiple cycles and actually shifts humanity over the next 10, 20, 30 years. So super stoked to have you guys on. Is there anything else from a attention capital markets point of view? Is a snapshot going to be tomorrow, or do people get like a week to essentially battle it out in the leaderboard, and then the snapshots happens a week later? Can you talk a little bit about that as well, Antony, just so everyone has a clear understanding when that snapshot's happening?
I'm not sure when exactly the snapshot will be. Please follow our socials and join the either Telegram or Discord or both. We share all the details there, and if you have any questions, like our community managers are happy to answer as well. They are fully briefed by me. But essentially the pop-up will start popping up tomorrow. So if you are interested in the 10 sale, go to cookie.fun and you'll see the pop-up.
Cool. Perfect. So everything's pretty much happening in the next 24 hours. So sale details, go to legion.cc, sign up there, get your Legion score, and you'll see all the term details and everything like that. And then from a cookie point of view, the Attention Capital Markets campaign, that's going to go live in the next 24 hours as well. So all further details will be there. They'll all be on the socials for Cookie, for 10, for us as well. Was there anything else before we wanted to go into Q&A?
I was just going to touch on, I think Antony gave a really good overview of the AMC model, but from 10's perspective, the way we were looking at it was, normally when a crypto project launches a token, the process is very top down, and these VCs get in early with favorable terms. So this kind of model, the way we see it, is really flipping the script, like giving rather than just someone whoever clicks the fastest, it's giving the chance to people who've actually shown up, created real value for 10, and put their name behind 10. It's not about who has the fastest bot. It's about who actually has shown some kind of understanding and spread the message about 10. And when we're seeing a lot of really interesting content come out of our campaigns thus far. So yeah, for us, it was really just about filtering for people who actually understand and care about the project, because you're sort of looking at investment from something you've already contributed to. So yeah, excited for that top 150 to get that access, and stay tuned everyone tomorrow, because if you're in the top 150, you will get a guaranteed allocation. And yeah, that's the only other thing I would like to add. But happy to now go into Q&A from, I see we have a lot of questions in the comments. So I think that's the best. Maybe we can go ahead, put some of those up there, and then we can start answering. They should start showing up in a sec. Also, for anyone who hasn't already checked out our Twitter, we have published an article last week which basically talks about why 10 chose to do this partnership with Nozomi and work with Legion, and sort of bringing infra to the people who use it. So I definitely recommend Slappers to check that out. Okay, the first question is, I have issues with Legion KYC issues. I don't know if it's a country buyer.
Yeah, every country will have a few nuances. Obviously, the major countries will have the standard stuff. Felix, if you can DM us, we'll get that checked out specific to your country.
Okay, it seems like the next question is, you emphasized on the top 150 but said nothing for others. So yeah, I mean, the way that it works is, we have been highlighting the top 150 because they are the ones who get guaranteed allocation. That doesn't mean that everyone else is excluded. Like we touched on last week, if you're on the 10 out of 10 call, you can still, be a part of this bigger snapper campaign with 10 and earn a share of that, 360K in 10 if you're a part of the top 1,000 snappers, which is a huge pool. And again, if someone in the top 150 declines or misses the deadline, their allocation rolls down to the next person. So if you're at 151 or even, below that, you're still in the running depending on how things shift. So yeah, I would say every snap still counts. Your content can push you up fast. So if, you're still building visibility and momentum for both rewards and potentially access. So yeah, it's not an exclusion thing necessarily, but keep snapping, guys. Okay, the next one is, I've been displaced from the cookie leaderboard. What other way can I join the Legion campaign? So you've been displaced from the cookie leaderboard. What exactly? I'm not sure what that means. Like, have you dropped out of the top 150? Is that what you're saying? If that's the case, because I don't think you would be removed from the whole leaderboard, but if that's the case, you can still, like, the leaderboard updates in real time. So one post can bump you right back up in the right spot if you're paying attention to what we're posting, taking a look at the content hub that we have that sort of has been updated today, actually, I believe. So we have some updates with regards to some new exciting things that you should stay tuned on our Twitter for, that's going to be announced later today with regards to our incubation program. So yeah, I think if you're staying on top of that, the leaderboard does update in real time. And we've seen people jump like 30 plus spots in a day just by timing content around announcements or using really sharp angles. So there's a chance for you to bump up and get access through that. But yeah, the only thing to remember is that, yeah, the top 150 will get guaranteed access here, but it doesn't exclude anyone else necessarily. You just don't have that same guarantee. But if someone in the top 150 declines their allocation or misses the deadline or whatever, their offer passes on. So staying close to the line gives you a shot. And of course, everyone can still participate in the sale that opens around Legion. So it will be available to you. So don't stress, just keep posting and stay on top of everything from our Twitter.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that. So even if you're not part of a cookie and you've never snapped in your life, you can still register on Legion and apply for the campaign. So the beauty with Legion is the reputation score as well. So every single time or whenever you register on Legion, you'll get your own reputation score. It'll take into account your social score, your dev score, and your on-chain score as well. So it allows companies like 10 to obviously identify bots. It obviously identifies people that are known to be airdrop hunters or farmers or bots and everything like that. So Cookie is one campaign where, okay, if you're a great snapper that also invests and you're in the top 150 on this leaderboard, you will get guaranteed access. But from a Legion point of view, 10 Protocol will get all of the data. They'll see essentially your socials, they'll see your wallet activity and all of that kind of stuff. You'll get a Legion score. So even if you're outside of the 150, they'll still consider you guys wherever you're from, whether you're part of the cookie leaderboard or not. So as long as you just sign up on Legion, get your reputation score, and then apply on the campaign, you'll always have a chance. Cool. I think that's most of the questions. But I guess, yeah, I think a ton of the other questions are around exactly what the terms are. If you want to find out terms, we obviously know them. So go on to legion.cc, sign up, and you'll see all of that information within the actual Legion platform there. And then in terms of the exact snapshot and everything like that for the Snaps campaign, that's going to be coming out in the next 24 hours as well. So stay tuned on socials, on Cookie and 10 Protocol, and then Nozomi as well. Look, that's everything from me, my end. Thank you again, Case. Thanks for Bav. Thanks 10 team, Liam, and Tony for coming on. Any parting words? Any CTA that you want everyone listening to essentially understand and just go to over the next 24 hours? I guess mostly it's sign up on Legion and find out more info and set a reminder. So go on Legion, set the reminder for the sale, and everyone will get a notification when it's up and running.
Yeah, sign up on Legion, and also remember we're still in the middle of the final stop down. So over the past few weeks, you've been, helping shape how people understand time. So keep your notifications on over the next few days, because we have a lot of really exciting announcements that are gonna really help you boost your score there too. And yeah, get ready for a lot of exciting things coming up from us this week and the coming weeks. Anything else, 10 team? If not, then yeah, stay 10 out of 10, guys. And thanks everyone for joining.
Awesome. Thanks everyone.
Cheers, Louis. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.